Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this session on Understanding Your TRS by Deaborn and Creggs. I'm Celina Estrada-Thomas, and I'm the Executive Director for TALAS, the Texas Association of Latino Administrators and Superintendents. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Providing financial empowerment sessions to our membership is one of our passion projects. As a former superintendent, financial empowerment was always an area that I wanted to offer to our teachers, to our educators, to our staff. I think it's extremely important to provide this ongoing piece of information. So just a few pieces of housekeeping for everyone. Remember that you are completely muted, but you are able to participate with the commands over in the upper right-hand corner. If you will go there, just familiarize yourself with what's available to you. Our guest speaker today, who I'll introduce in just a few seconds, has provided 2 handouts for you. So you want to make sure that you download those 2 PDFs and create a folder in your personal file. It says financial information. This session is going to be recorded and it's going to be available to you in case you want to share it with family and friends. I think it will be vital for them, especially if they're in education. And then you also have the ability to submit questions, and we encourage you to submit as many questions as pop into your mind as Jana is speaking. So remember that to submit a question, you have to go to the chat option. I learned that the last time. Go to the chat option and submit your question. And I will be, once I turn it over to Jana, I will be monitoring the questions. More than likely, we'll save them to the very end, but if I see a question that is kind of is in the moment or is pertinent to what Jana is talking about, I will kindly interrupt and say, we have a question that I think will go nicely with the topic at hand, and we'll handle it in that manner. So other than that, those are the, oh, and the very last thing, we do have 2 important questions that we would like for you to answer at the end of the webinar. So be on the lookout for those 2 questions. Okay, once again, I'm the Executive Director for TALAS, and we are super proud of our partnership with Deaborn and Creggs Investments. Today we have a wonderful presenter, Ms. Jana Albus. She is a financial advisor with Deaborn and Creggs. At the end of the session, for those of you who are tuning in, she did not ask me to do this. I'm doing this because I think it's important to put out there. But if you do not have a financial advisor and you feel like you really need to talk to someone after this session, please reach out to Jana. She will set up a time to meet with you and get you on the right path as you work through TRS and financial planning and retirement at some point in your life. So at this point, it is a great pleasure to introduce Ms. Jana Albus with Deaborn and Creggs.
Thank you, Dr. Estrada-Thomas, for having us today, and I appreciate the opportunity to get to talk about one of my passions, which is the topic of TRS. I believe it is one of the most valuable benefits that you have as a member of TRS, and a lot of times find that people don't know as much about it as we would hope that they would. So what gives me the privilege or the honor to talk about this today? Well, I started my professional career back in 1982 when I started working at TRS in Austin, and I spent 21 years there, most of which was as a retirement counselor, traveling around the state explaining the variety of benefits that are offered to educators as a result of them being a member. I also spent 4 years in Houston ISD serving in a similar role specifically for their district. And then in 2006, I joined Deaborn and Creggs, where I was able to expand my ability to help clients bridge the gap between what TRS is going to offer them and what they may need to live a retirement lifestyle like they have dreamed of. So I again thank you for the opportunity to be here with y'all today. And as Dr. Estrada-Thomas mentioned, please don't hesitate to enter those questions in the chat box, and we will make sure that we answer all of those. So let's get started. So there are a few things that probably everybody knows about TRS. The biggest one is that it's going to provide you a lifetime stream of income. Now, of course, that does assume that you are vested in TRS, which means that you've got at least 5 years in TRS. And then at some point in time into the future, you'll get a monthly pension from them. So what is that pension going to be? What does it look like? You'll get 2.3% of your average salary for each year of service that you have in TRS. So for someone who maybe started late in life, retires with 10 years, that means they're going to get right at 23%. On the other end of that, someone who's 30 plus years in education, which is quite common these days, you know, you're going to get almost 70% of your pre-retirement salary from TRS, and that's going to be for the rest of your life. So a few things that are important to know to start figuring out exactly when you can retire or what that pension is going to look like is, first, you need to know which tier you are, and we're going to look at that chart here in just a moment. That tier is going to help us determine, or help you determine, when exactly you can retire from TRS. And then lastly, it's going to indicate to us whether your benefit from TRS is going to be based on your highest 3 or your highest 5 years of salary, okay? So this is your tier placement map, and I know this is really small on your screen, so I wanted to make sure that you could look at this in a manner that you could actually read it. So you'll see in the handouts the TRS benefit handbook, and it is on page 25 of that handbook. You will find this exact chart. So I don't know if y'all can zoom in on this and see, but it will show you as you answer these questions, yes or no. It'll take you just through the process to determine which tier you are. So I'll use myself just as an example, being a TRS member myself, you know, to help us determine where the tier is. So the first question says, did your TRS membership begin prior to 2014? Well, for me, it did. Then it goes on to say, and it's small for me as well, so excuse me as I lean in, it says, did you have at least 5 years of credit by August 31st of 2014? Well, yes, I did. So I keep moving down this yes chart. So did your current TRS membership begin prior to September 1st of 2007? Again, yes. Here's where we get a little tricky. It says, were you a member prior to 2005? Again, yes, I was. Now, this is where I got disappointed. So when you look at the 3 bullets here, it asks, so did you meet any of these requirements by that 2005 date? Well, I was, at that point in time, I wasn't 50. I didn't have enough years to meet the rule of 70, and I didn't have 25 years of service. So I wasn't able to meet any one of those 3 criteria. So my answer there was no. So that meant I was tier 2. So again, you can follow through here, kind of figure out for yourself what tier you're at. Now, that may be a whole lot of work. The easiest way that you can find out your tier is if you've ever logged into your TRS portal on the TRS website. It will tell you right there when you look at your account which tier you're at. If you've never logged in, but you're also getting your annual statements from TRS, it also indicates on there. So that may be a lot easier option than actually going through this chart, but I wanted you to have it as a resource. So now that we know which tier, or at least we've got some idea of what tier you're on, let's talk about how let me say full retirement is defined, okay? For any and all tiers, full retirement can be age 65 with at least 5 years of service. So for people who maybe came into education and this was a second career and they don't have as many years, they actually can get a pension at 65 with 5 years of service. Now you'll see one thing that's in common with all of these tiers, and that's that rule of 80, okay? Everybody knows, this is usually the one thing people almost always know, is that they've got to have the rule of 80. So for tier 1 and 2, it is just a very simple rule of 80 calculation. So it doesn't matter what your age is, what your years of service are, as long as it totals to 80, you are eligible for what's considered full benefits from TRS. Now, if you're in tier 3 or 4, you still have the rule of 80, but you've also got to be age 60 in order to be eligible for what we call full retirement benefits. And then lastly, if you're in tier 5 or 6, then it's rule of 80, but you also need to be age 62 to meet full benefits. So you might ask, why do you keep saying full benefits? What does full benefits exactly mean? Well, we're going to look at the calculation in a minute, and once you go through that calculation, it's going to give you what your standard annuity is, and that's full benefits. The one thing that I want to stop and take a moment here to clarify is full benefits does not necessarily mean that is all you can receive from TRS. The more you work, the more years of service you have, this pension can continue to go up. There's not really a cap on what TRS will pay you. It's based on your years of service and salary. We'll look at that in just a moment. Now, one of the things I mentioned on the previous slide is, are your retirement benefits going to be based on your highest 3 salaries or your highest 5? So you can see here that anybody that's in tier 1, 4, or 6, your pension is going to be based on the average of your 3 highest salaries. If you're in tiers 2, 3, and 5, then it's going to be the average of your highest 5 salaries. Okay? Again, you're going to have this recorded, so you'll have this to refer back to. So don't feel like you've got to commit that to memory. So let's look now at the formula. How do we get to that full retirement benefits? So TRS is going to take the average of your highest salaries, whether that be your 3 highest or your 5 highest. And we're going to talk a little bit more to the details about your salaries in just a little bit. Then they're going to take your years of service. They're going to multiply that times 2.3% to get a percentage. Like I said earlier in my example, if you've got 30 years of service, if we multiply that times 2.3, it's 69%. And then we simply multiply that percentage, time that average salary, and that gives you your annual standard annuity. Okay, when you actually request a packet from TRS, they're going to include in there an estimate of your benefits, and the very first dollar amount they give you on there is your standard annuity. That's the most you can ever receive from TRS. Now, it's only guaranteed to you throughout your life, so it doesn't go on to anybody else, but that's how much, that's a maximum benefit you can get from TRS based on this formula. Now, there are 5 other options, and I'm not going to go into great detail on those today, but there are other options should you have a spouse or somebody that's dependent upon you for income. You've got 3 options that can provide lifetime income if you're naming an individual as your beneficiary. And then there's a couple of other options that guarantee a payment for a certain period of time. Those are all very individual decisions that you will make as a part of the retirement process, and we're working with your advisor, or if you've not got an advisor, seeking one out that can kind of help look at your whole big picture to determine which one is going to be best for you, because it is not the same for everybody. So let's talk and spend a little bit of time. So we've got an idea of how much your pension is going to be. So let's just say real quickly, you've got a calculator sitting over there beside you, and you've gone through this calculation, and you know now a rough idea of what you're going to get from TRS. What if maybe you think that's not enough? Well, so we've got some options. The first one, maybe not your most preferred if you're here sitting at home in the summer, taking at least a few weeks off during the summer to catch up after a busy school year, and you're thinking, do I really want to go back next school year? But if that pension isn't enough, there's some things that are going to happen then. One of those being, you might want to consider working some additional years. One of the things that we see a lot of educators, especially people who have the goal of increasing their level of responsibility as they get closer to retirement, is you take on a higher level of responsibility. Maybe you're a principal right now and you want to take on an area superintendency within your district, or maybe even like Dr. Estrada-Thomas, become a superintendent of a district. And that can greatly increase your salary that's going to get reported to TRS, and subsequently, if you do it long enough, can increase your pension substantially. I can remember during my time while I was at Houston ISD, I had a lady come into my office and we were going through her TRS packet, and she shared with me that the reason she was getting such a wonderful benefit is literally her last 3 years of school. She taught summer school. She was the department chair. She did after school tutoring. From listening to her, it sounded like she basically ran that campus, but it ended up resulting in $1,000 a month more in her pension than what she would have got had she just had her teacher's salary for those last, in her case, 3 years. So just know that these are ways that you can increase your pension. Now, I want to pause right there and talk just a moment, though. If you have these large increases in your salary, it's real important that you do some planning, because TRS has a rule that says your salary that is used in the calculation of your benefit cannot increase any more than 10% year over year. Now, I stress again, this is used in the determination of your pension, not what actually gets reported to TRS. So when you look at your annual statement that you get from TRS, you're going to see those full salaries reported on there. I just want you to know that those salaries will be audited when you get to retirement, and they could be reduced. So it's important that you not just work 5 years necessarily at this higher salary. You may need to go 6.5 years to make sure that you get to use that full higher salary. But there's no set practice that I can tell you. We just have to wait as you get closer to retirement and determine those options. But a great way to increase your overall pension. You can purchase additional service. If you ever maybe worked in education early on in your career, you left to go back to get your master's or get a doctorate, or maybe you took a break to start a family, a variety of reasons, and you left TRS and maybe took your money out, you've got the option to purchase those years of service back. And usually it can be very worthwhile. If you've got active duty military time, you can purchase up to 5 years of service credit for that. Out of state time, if you worked in public education outside of the state of Texas, you can also look into that. One of the most common that we have people talk to us about is they want to purchase what is called a year of service for their state leave time. There's a misunderstanding a lot of times that it's a matter of giving up 50 state days and that TRS will just give you a year of service credit for that, and that's not quite how it works. It is an actuarial cost that TRS will calculate to tell you exactly how much it would cost you to establish it. So it is a purchase on your part to get credit for that year of state leave. It's very expensive. Most of the time when we run analysis with our clients, it's not generally worthwhile. But again, everybody's situation is very different. So look at it when you get closer to that time. Lastly, there is an opportunity if you are retiring from full retirement benefits that you have a partial lump sum option you could take. What that does is it allows you to take 1, 2, or 3 years of your retirement pension up front, okay? For people who are on tiers 1, 4, and 6, you have to also meet the rule of 80, again, full retirement benefits, to be eligible for that option. For those that are on tier 2, 3, and 5, you must meet rule of 90 to have the partial lump sum as an option. You could still retire when you get to rule of 80, but you won't have the lump sum as an option that's out there for you. So you might want to know, so why would I take a lump sum? And it's, again, not a one size fits all kind of question. You've got to evaluate your particular situation. But just to give you a couple of ideas of why people might consider that. One, maybe they've not saved or don't feel like they've saved quite enough, either through IRAs or 403Bs or 457s, or just, money that they've got in their savings. So the partial lump sum is a way they could have a lump sum of money that they could roll into an IRA or maybe their 403B, that's up to them, to give you some liquid money should you have things that come up in retirement, because they will. And TRS is not a liquid asset that you could get more money out of. You're going to get a check, wonderful thing for the rest of your life. But you can't call them up and say, hey, I need $10,000. Hurricane just came through and I need to put a new roof on. So that might be one reason someone would take a partial lump sum. The other reason might be is because they want to benefit maybe a child, maybe there's a special needs issue going on there, and they don't want to take a sizable reduction in their pension, so they take a lump sum and maybe set that up in a special account for a particular person that they couldn't otherwise provide for. So just a couple of quick options there. Again, a very, very personal decision. Please don't let anybody tell you that everybody should take a partial lump sum, because it does reduce your pension for the rest of your life. So you want to be very careful about choosing that decision. So what will you retire to? I tell all of my clients, a lot of people think retirement is the end game. In my opinion, it's just, I'm closing this chapter and opening another. So I like for people to think about not retiring from something, but retiring to something. What are you going to do in retirement? If you don't have a list of at least, I'm going to say anywhere from 5 to 10 different things that you really want to do when you get ready to retire, you're not quite ready yet, okay? But should you be ready, you've got that list, you've given it some thought, let's talk about that. So if you should go to work outside of a TRS covered employer, really sky's the limit. You can do anything you want to in that regard. Now, because you are an educator, this is where your passion has been, this is what you know so well, then a lot of times retirees want to come back to work in a TRS covered position. And you might say at first, no way, not going back, but you're going to be surprised. Not only your desire to still get up and do something, but the number of opportunities and the phone calls that you may get saying, hey, I've got this opportunity, would you be interested in come helping me at my district? So it's always good to know, at least at a high level, what these guidelines are. So if you want to return to a school district after you retired, you absolutely must have a 1 full calendar month break-in service. It's not just 30 days, so be careful for those months. It's in 31 days following your retirement. You've got to lay out that full calendar month. For that, you could go back, you could substitute, you could work half-time or less. So those are a couple of options. A lot of people want to return full-time. If you're interested in returning to full-time employment, you have to lay out 12 consecutive months before you can come back as a full-time employee in a TRS covered position, okay? Also know that if the district hires you back as a full-time employee, they are going to be required to pay a retiree surcharge, which is basically equivalent to what you've been contributing as an active TRS member, plus what the state has been contributing into the retirement system. So depending on what district you are, you know, their capabilities, their budget to do those kind of things may be somewhat limited. So just a very high level overview for you of what you can do when you come back into retirement. Again, always want to be a resource. So if this is something you're thinking about, I'm going to share my contact information a little bit later. Don't hesitate to reach out and we can talk about your particular circumstance. Next, I want to share a little bit of good news. Some of you may know this, some of you may not. But in January, legislation was signed that repealed both the government pension offset and the windfall elimination provision. Those were both things that had passed, oh gosh, I don't even remember when they were originally passed, but they affected both any Social Security that you potentially could receive from a spouse that had been working maybe in private industry and had paid into Social Security, or even your own Social Security if you had at least 40 quarters and were going to be eligible for pension. Previously, those things were reduced and many times were eliminated so that you got nothing from Social Security, but those are gone now. So you will get something from Social Security, assuming that you've got those 40 quarters or that you've been married to someone for at least 10 years that is eligible for a Social Security benefit. Now, all of that's great and wonderful news. So you think, okay, I don't need to worry about it. It still is very important that you do have a strategy, though, for how you're going to apply for these benefits. Do you consider taking them early? Do you wait and take them at full benefits, which for a lot of people right now is around 67? Or even is it important maybe that you delay those to 70? You may not know it, but by delaying your Social Security from 67 to 70, you can get a 24% increase in your Social Security pension. So again, another reason to kind of look at a strategy. Again, something we can help you with. We've got some great software we can kind of input your numbers into and give you a couple of strategies to consider. So with all of this information that I've shared today, I just really encourage you, like Dr. Estrada-Thomas mentioned, to seek help from a financial professional. They can take your entire big picture into consideration for you when deciding which option you're going to select from TRS. Consider not only yourself, but whoever you may have as a beneficiary that's dependent upon you financially. So it's a big, big decision. If you haven't already done so, start making a plan. It's never too early. And to that point, I wanted to make sure that you download the other handout you see attached here to the event today called Test Drive Your Retirement. I think this is a real cool little tool. It'll show you and walk you through the process of figuring out what your monthly salary is right now, what your TRS monthly salary will look like, and determine what the gap is there. So one of the best things that I like to encourage people that I work with that are say 5 or 10 years from retirement is start doing some projections of what their TRS pension will look like and what is that gap. Let's say that gap is $600 a month. Well, when you ask somebody, do you think you can live on $600 less a month? Odds are the answer is going to be no. So we shouldn't retire yet. But what I like to do is have people, if they've already got a 403B, great. If they don't, let's get one opened. And let's start taking a little bit more out of your paycheck each payday till we've absorbed the difference between what you're getting now and what you're going to get in retirement to see what it feels like to live on that lower amount. It's great to test drive it while you're still working because it's easy to say, you know what, that's beyond my comfort zone. I need you to reduce what you're taking out of my paycheck. once you're retired and on TRS, there's no going back. It's a done deal. So that's not the time you want to find out that you don't have enough to live on, and then that you have to go back to work. We always want it to be a choice. You get to choose what the next phase looks like for you. Does it mean you get to stay home and take care of grandbabies? I just talked to one of my retirees earlier today, and she's taking care of grandbabies. Does it mean that you're going to travel the world, write a book? Who knows what that next phase will be? But make sure that you are set up and ready to have a successful retirement, and that you get to call the shots, not somebody else. And as I kind of already said, these decisions that you're going to make right now will last a lifetime. So make sure you're prepared to enter into this next chapter fully aware of everything that you've got headed your way. I thank y'all for your time today. Dr. Estrada, I'm going to ask you to come back in and let me know if we've got any questions that we can address.
Jana, thank you for that wonderful presentation. No, I didn't see any questions in the chat unless I didn't look correctly, but I don't see any coming through. I do have a couple of comments just from someone who just retired recently as I was sharing. Thank you so much for emphasizing that look back year. Because I did 41 years of service, but it's such an unusual number, but I did 41 because of a look back year. I came into the superintendency late. So just like you were talking about someone who decides toward the end of their career, I'm going to get into a higher position and increase my salary because they finally took a look at TRS and realized I should probably up my average. But if you're not careful, I worked an extra year, and that extra year made a difference of $80,000 in my annuity. Now, of course, that's a significant amount of money because I was in the superintendency, but it applies in any setting. Sometimes if you don't do that 6th year, you will be penalized. So thank you for emphasizing that. Again, that this topic is such a passion topic for me, because if I had one conversation, I had 100 conversations with employees over the years who thought, oh, I'm going to reach my 30 years of service. Oh, I reached the rule of 80, I can leave. And I remember one conversation in particular that I had with a school counselor. I asked her, because she was ready to, I came in October of that year, and she was going to retire that May. And I asked her if she had made an appointment. I said, have you actually made an appointment with TRS? I realize you've reached your 30-year mark. I said, but have you actually talked to someone at TRS about how much money you're going to make? It was crickets. She hadn't. Anyway, long story short, we had a long conversation about TRS. Long story short, she ended up working an extra 5 years because, and she was perfectly fine with it. She enjoyed, she wasn't one of those that was trying to get out. She was enjoying what she was doing, but she went and did the TRS visit and realized this is not enough money. And this was before the windfall provision with Social Security, right? So she couldn't even count on that particular time. So many stories, and then of course the most tragic ones. At the very beginning of this webinar, you mentioned if you have not created an account with TRS, my TRS, please do so. And I think regardless of the years of experience, everyone who is listening to this webinar or who will listen to it after it's recorded, that's number one. Go in and create your account and log in at least once a year and check that information. As superintendent, I can tell you of some tragic stories of people who passed away and who had divorced and remarried and never updated their beneficiary information. And of course,
point for me.
Yes, and it was the ex-spouse who was entitled to the benefits. In one case, In one case, the old spouse willingly signed over the benefits to the new spouse. But I can tell you that there was another situation that was really quite ugly where they did not. And that person, the old spouse didn't have near the years of marriage as the new spouse, but the beneficiary information had never been updated. Tragic, tragic story.
Yes, ma'am. I've seen it all too many times. So yes, make sure you always keep your beneficiary updated.
Mm-hmm. And then, and not because Deaborn Creggs again is sponsoring this session, we hope to have many more of these sessions because we want these conversations to continue. But again, to everyone who's listening, if you do not have a financial advisor and do not know where to begin, contact Jana, contact Deaborn Creggs. I have another good friend there with them, Mr. Stewart. He will help you get connected with someone who you can begin a relationship with, because navigating finances can sometimes be difficult. And just on a personal note, one of the reasons that this is such a passion topic for me is that, we all had, many of us like me had humble beginnings, and you start out with nothing, and there were a lot of dips in my career just personally, and so sometimes you wonder how you're going to get out of that dip and climb out. And if you have the right financial advisor in your corner, regardless of how much money you make, it makes all the difference in the world for someone to guide you and speak to you in terms that are going to be in your best interest. So, lasting piece of advice: get a financial advisor.
Yes. Fantastic advice. We're here to partner with you in any way that we can serve. Okay.
Well, we had plenty of time for questions, because normally people have lots of questions, or I love it when people put out a scenario, right? And you get to problem solve with them online. I know that when we did our practice session, I submitted a question just to make sure I knew how to do it. And I said, how do I know I'm ready for retirement? And to people listening who are going to listen to it after the recording, say to yourself, how do you know you're ready for retirement? And one of the ways to do it is to be on good financial ground. You've got to take care of yourself, because if you don't, no one else is going to do it for you.
That's so true.